What's up guys, I'm Puneet from Programiz and welcome back to this series on programming with JavaScript. In this video, we will learn to take input from the user and store it in a variable, so let's get started. Before we learn to take user input, let me create a simple program that prints the value stored in a variable as a refresher. So I'll go to my code editor and let me write the code. I can say something like const name equals, let me use a string like Juliet, oops, and then in the next line let me just say console.log name. When I press run, as you must have expected, Juliet is printed to the screen. Here we are assigning the string Juliet to the name variable and using console log to print the value of the name variable. Let me make the output a bit more friendly by adding hello in front of the name. I can do that by adding the string hello inside the console log and adding a comma after that. Console log can take any number of values and variables to print at the same time by separating them with commas. Let me run the code and I get a friendlier output, hello Juliet. Now rather than explicitly assigning the value to a variable like this, we can also ask the user for the input and store it in a variable. And the simplest way to do it in JavaScript is by using the prompt method. Let's see an example of this and remove this old code. And I can say const name equals prompt, enter your name. And then in the next line, just like before, I can say console log hello, comma, name. Now let me run this program. And you can see that this time JavaScript is waiting for me to input something. So let me type Puneet. This value will be stored in the name variable when I press enter. So let me do that. I'll press enter and as you can see, hello Puneet has been printed. Let me make this capital H. I'll run it again, enter your name Puneet, and again I get the same output, hello Puneet. Now let's see what happened here. When I typed a text and hit enter, the string I entered was assigned to the name variable. Then console log method printed the variable and the hello string in front of it. By the way, in real world scenarios, we rarely use prompt to take user input. In fact, the prompt function actually isn't supposed to work like this on Node.js, the platform our online compiler uses to run the JavaScript code. But I just wanted you to focus on the basics, so I've hacked in some code in our online compiler to make this work so that you can learn the concepts easily. We'll learn how to use a combination of JavaScript and HTML to accept input from the user through text input fields in later videos. At this point, I want to give you an important and useful piece of advice. When taking input from the user, give descriptive instructions. In our code, you must have noticed that we have said enter your name. Instead, if you had written only name, the user could be confused about what's happening in the program. Now let's try to take a numeric input from the user this time. Let me modify this program and instead of enter your name, I'll say enter your age. And then I can say something like hello, your age is, and then inside here I can say age. Now let me press run and this time it says enter your age. So let me enter 31 and something is wrong here. What went wrong is, oh, the variable is supposed to be age. Now I'll press run again, it says enter your age, let me enter 31 again, and this time my program is correct, it says hello, your age is 31. As you saw, taking a number as input was really easy, or is it? Well, the prompt method takes the input in the string format. When I enter 31, rather than the integer 31, the string 31 was stored in the age variable. To confirm this, we will use the type of operator. The type of operator gives the data type of the variable. So let's check. I'll go to my code editor and I'll say console log type of age. Here we have simply passed the age variable into the type of operator so that we can see what type of result I'm getting in the age variable. Now let me run the code. It says enter your age. Let me press 31 again. My age is not getting any lesser. And you can see that the type of variable age is string. Let's see what the type of operator returns while using integers and floating point numbers. Let me remove this old code and let me create some integers and floating point values. So I can say const int value equals 5, console log type of int value. Similarly, I can say const float value equals 5.5, and then I can say console.log type of float value. So we are just doing some experimentation here. Now when I press run, you can see that I get number for both. In JavaScript, both integer and floating point numbers are represented as number data type. That's why we get number as a data type for both values. If you're enjoying this video, please also check out Programiz Pro, where we provide tutorials along with quizzes and challenges which will help you practice and test your learning in real time. Also, the course includes projects to give you an awesome experience of how programming works in the real world. And for our YouTube subscribers, we are giving 50% off on the yearly plan. Sign up by scanning this QR code or use the link in the video description to claim your discount. Now let's get back to our original problem of taking numeric input from the user. So I'll quickly remove this old code and I'll go back to my old code. So I'll say const age equals prompt enter your age, and in the next line I had said console log, let me just print age this time. As we already saw, all inputs from the user are of string type. So how can we take the input from the user that is actually a number? Well, in that case, we can use the parseInt method. Let's try this now. To use the parseInt method, we will wrap our prompt code inside the parseInt method. So here I can say parseInt and parenthesis, and I have to wrap the whole code of prompt. Let me put a semicolon here. Now let me also print the type of age again, console.log type of age. Now let's run the code. It says enter your age. I'll press 31, and you can see that this time the type of variable age is 31. I mean to say number, not 31. So it's a number, not a string. Let's see what happened here. First, the prompt method got me the age in string format from the user. Then the parseInt took that string and converted it into an integer, and that's why the type of variable age was a number. Now let's take floating point input. Earlier we used the parseInt method to convert the input data from string to number. The parseInt method works fine with integer inputs, but if we provide floating point input, the parseInt method will only take the integer value and omit the values after the decimal. Let me show that to you with an example. I will create a program to take height from the user, and let's see what happens if we pass a decimal number to the parseInt function. So let me just modify this existing one. I'll say enter your height, and then this should be height, this should also be height, and this should also be height. Now when I press run, it says enter your height, so I can say something like 5.6. When I press enter, then when I console log back the height, I get only 5. 0.6 has disappeared. This is because the value after the decimal was omitted by the parseInt function. To solve this issue, we can use the parseFloat method instead of parseInt. Similar to parseInt, the parseFloat method also converts a string input into a number, but in this case, the number will be a floating point type. Let's see an example. I'll modify this program and I'll wrap the prompt method with parseFloat instead of parseInt. So let me remove this parseInt and say parseFloat, and then let me run the code to check if this time it works or not. So when I press run, it says enter your height. I say 5.6 and press enter, and you can see that I get 5.6 back, and the type of height variable is still number as we saw before. Okay guys, we need your support to keep these kinds of content free for all users. YouTube really likes engagement on the video, so leave a comment below, press that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get the engagement score high up so that more people can discover and enjoy these courses. When using parseInt and parseFloat, one thing you should always remember is that input data must be numeric strings. That is, numbers in string format like 28 or 5.65. This is because JavaScript tries to convert the numeric string into its corresponding integers and float values. However, if the input data are non-numeric strings like Programiz and JavaScript, we try to convert them to a number using either paresInt or parseFloat, then JavaScript doesn't know how to convert it because Programiz and JavaScript don't have any numeric equivalents. Let's see an example. I'll create a program to ask the user something, and then I'll try to convert the input value to number using paresInt, and let's see what happens. I'll go back to my code editor, remove the old code, and let me say let name equals paresInt prompt, and I can say something like enter your name, where I expect the value to be a string, and then I can say console.log name. Now let me run this code. This time it says enter a name, so I can say something like Puneet, and I get the output as NaN, which means not a number. Not a number represents that the string is not a valid number. Since I have entered Puneet, which is obviously not a number, I get not a number or NaN as output. Now that we have reached the end of this video, it's time for the Programiz quiz. What is the type of the number variable in the following code? Comment your answer below, and if you want to revise these concepts, you can find all the programs in our GitHub repository. I'll put the link in the video description below. Happy programming!